Welcome, dear friend, to a quiet corner of our world, and thank you, with the most genuine and heartfelt warmth, for choosing to spend a piece of your time here with us. We have prepared for you a gentle story, a quiet exploration, crafted to be a soft and comforting companion as you prepare for rest, helping you to find that peaceful path toward a good night's slumber. If, as our journey unfolds, you find a simple contentment in this quiet tale, we would be so very grateful if you would, perhaps right now, show your appreciation by liking this story, subscribing to our channel, and maybe even leaving a gentle comment, as this allows us to continue crafting these havens of tranquility for all. Before we follow our quiet cartographer into the Vale of Murmurs, a place where soft laughter lingers in the air, and the very starlight seems to hum a gentle tune, we shall first share a moment of quiet breathing to help settle your body and spirit. Now, let us invite a deep and true comfort to settle over you. Find your most restful position, allowing your body to feel as content as a cat curled in a perfect patch of afternoon sun. Feel the gentle, supportive weight of your mattress or your cushions beneath you, a solid and reassuring presence that allows every muscle to let go. Pull your blankets around you, a soft cocoon of warmth and safety, and let your pillow nestle your head just so, creating a perfect harbor for your journey tonight. This is your time, a quiet moment set aside from the busyness of the world, where any lingering thoughts may simply unwind and drift away, inviting a peace into your heart as soft and pervasive as the scent of hush blooms on a gentle breeze. Let us take a slow, calming breath together, one that is as natural and unhurried as the sigh of the veil itself. Gently, slowly, draw the air in through your nose, imagining it as a soft, clean stream of quietness, flowing effortlessly to fill every part of you. Then, release it just as softly, a warm and silent exhalation of relief. With each easy breath, you might feel your body growing softer, like earth after a gentle rain, releasing any small bits of tightness you may have been holding. Imagine the clean, cool fragrance of ancient stone, the delicate sweetness of distant honey, and the powdery scent of chamomile, all carried on the air, hushing the small, lingering noises of your day. If you find that your thoughts begin to wander, like little leaves caught in a slow current, that is perfectly fine, dear one. Simply notice them with a gentle kindness, and then without any effort at all, guide your attention back to the steady, peaceful rhythm of your breath, or to the quiet sound of my voice. There is nothing more for you to do now but to listen and to allow the story to be your guide into the deep and restorative rest you so richly deserve. Feel the world around you soften, its edges blurring into a gentle haze of comfort. Now let us begin our journey into the cartography of gentle echoes, where the faint music of kind words and the soft warmth of forgotten laughter await to carry you into a serene and profoundly peaceful sleep. Chapter 1. The Threshold of Murmurs. It is a curious and wonderful thing, one supposes, how some places in the world feel as if they are holding their breath. Not in a nervous sort of way, you understand, but in a peaceful, contemplative stillness, as if listening for something that only they can hear. The Vale of Murmurs was just such a place. For Finian, the quiet cartographer, the final steps of his journey felt less like an arrival and more like a crossing over, as if he were wading from a babbling brook into a deep, silent pool. The clatter and scrape of the world he had left behind seemed to simply fall away, not abruptly, but gently, as if absorbed by the soft, pliant air that greeted him. His cottage was a small, humble thing, yet it seemed to possess a quiet dignity all its own. It was built from pale, smooth-barked wood that felt wonderfully sleek beneath his fingertips, and large, rounded river stones that were cool to the touch, their surfaces worn as smooth as a worry stone from 1,000 years of gentle water. It looked as though it had not been constructed so much as it had simply grown there, a natural and welcome part of the landscape, a wisp of smoke, smelling faintly of dried applewood, curled from its squat stone chimney, a silent, fragrant invitation that spoke of warmth and welcome within. Stepping inside, Finian was greeted by a profound and comforting silence, a quiet so complete it felt like a physical presence, a soft blanket settling over his shoulders. The air was cool and held the clean, grounding scent of slate and a distant, sweet herb he could not quite name, something akin to chamomile, but with a softer, earthier note. Light, the color of wheat tea, filtered through 2 small, deep-set windows, illuminating a simple room furnished with a sturdy wooden table, a single chair, and a narrow bed covered in a thick, hand-knitted throw, whose texture was a pleasingly nubby wool. He ran his hand over the throw, its softness a small, simple comfort that made him feel instantly at home. The hearth, he discovered with a small, contented sigh, was already prepared. A low fire crackled there, not with a hungry roar, but with a deep, contented murmur, like a sleeping cat's purr. The sound was a low, steady hum that seemed to resonate in his very bones, a gentle vibration that coaxed a slowness into his movements. He set his pack down on the smooth, worn floorboards, the sound a soft thud that was quickly swallowed by the room's deep quiet. There was a sense here that nothing loud could last for very long, that the very walls and timbers preferred gentler sounds. He did not unpack. Instead, he pulled the chair to the western window and simply sat, a simple act that felt more purposeful and fulfilling than anything he had done all day. He watched as the sun, a soft, hazy orb in the vale's gentle sky, dipped below the rounded, slumbering hills. The world outside did not fall into darkness, but rather into a soft, luminous twilight. A pale moon, soon followed by its smaller, fainter twin, rose into a sky the color of a faded periwinkle flower, casting a soft silvery sheen over the landscape. The light that bathed the vale was unlike any he had ever mapped. It did not so much illuminate things as it seemed to gently caress them, softening their edges and imbuing them with a serene inner glow. The pale bark of the trees outside his window seemed to hold the light, radiating a soft luminescence that pushed back the deepest of the shadows. Even the stones in the cottage wall seemed to have absorbed the day's gentle sun, and when he rested his hand against one, he could feel a faint, pleasant warmth seeping into his palm, a simple, grounding connection to this peaceful place. He sat there for a long time, watching the twin moons climb higher, feeling the day's journey dissolve from his muscles and his mind. The cool air from the open window carried the faint, powdery scent of some night-blooming flower, and it mingled with the warm, woody smell of the crackling fire. He felt himself sinking into the stillness, his own breathing slowing to match the gentle, sleeping pulse of the vale. He was not merely in a quiet place. He felt he was becoming part of the quiet itself. Finally, feeling a pleasant weight settle upon his eyelids, Finian rose from his chair. The fire had burned down to a bed of softly glowing embers, their warmth a comforting presence in the growing cool of the room. He pulled the thick woolen throw from the bed and wrapped it around his shoulders, its gentle weight a final reassuring comfort. He did not feel lonely in his solitude. He felt instead as though he were being held in the gentle, quiet embrace of the Vale itself, and he knew, with a certainty that required no thought at all, that he would sleep very, very well. Chapter 2. Tracing the First Echo. The morning arrived not with a clamor, but with a gradual and gentle lightening of the world, as if someone were slowly turning up the wick of a very soft lamp. Finian awoke feeling not just rested, but truly restored, as though the deep quiet of the night had washed over him and rinsed away some unseen dust. He made a simple breakfast of bread and cheese, the sounds of his movements, the soft scrape of the knife, the quiet rustle of the wrapper, seeming like small, respectful contributions to the Vale's prevailing stillness. The air, when he opened his door, was cool and smelled of damp earth and clean stone, a fragrance that felt wholesome and ancient. Finian's work, as he understood it, was a rather peculiar form of cartography. It required no sextant, no compass, only a profound and patient attentiveness. His task was to listen, to feel for the places where a kindness had left its mark, where a gentle sound had become part of the landscape. He set out with nothing but a small satchel containing a water skin and an apple, his footsteps making almost no sound on the soft, springy ground cover that carpeted the Vale floor. The path he chose seemed to beckon him, a faint trail that meandered alongside a slow-moving stream whose water was so clear he could count every smooth gray pebble on its bed. The path was lined with flowers he had never seen before, lovely bell-shaped blossoms of the palest cream color, with a texture that looked as soft as down. He would later learn from Orla that they were called hush blooms, and their nature was to gentle the world around them. As he walked, a soft breeze, more a sigh of air than a wind, passed through them, and they released a fine, almost invisible pollen that carried a soft, powdery scent of chamomile and clean linen. It was a fragrance that seemed to quiet the mind, encouraging a state of peaceful, meandering thought. It was in a small clearing where the sunlight fell in a perfect warm circle that he found the first one. It was not something one heard with the ears in the usual way. It was more a feeling, a faint resonance in the air, like the last fading vibration of a struck bell. He stood very still, closing his eyes, letting the sensation wash over him. It was a melody, he realized, a simple, loving tune that felt like a lullaby. It clung to the air and seemed to have been absorbed into the very leaves of the broad, silver-barked trees. a gentle memory that the grove had decided to keep. He felt a warmth spread through his chest, a feeling of being in the presence of a long ago, deeply felt tenderness. Following the path further, he saw a small column of smoke rising ahead, and soon came upon a little cottage much like his own, surrounded by several wooden hives. A figure was moving slowly among them, their motion so calm and deliberate that the bees swirled around them in a placid humming cloud. This was Orla, the beekeeper. She was an elderly woman with kind, crinkled eyes and hands that, though weathered, moved with a gentle, certain grace. She looked up as he approached, and her smile was as warm and welcoming as the sun on his face. "Ah, a visitor," she said, her voice a low, soothing hum, much like her bees. "It has been a while. Would you care for some tea?" They sat on a simple wooden bench outside her cottage, sipping warm golden tea sweetened with a spoonful of her own fragrant honey. The liquid was a balm, its warmth spreading all the way to his fingertips, and the taste was of sunshine and 1,000 different wildflowers. Orla spoke little, but her quiet companionship was a comfort in itself. She told him about the hush blooms and how they absorbed any sharp sounds, leaving only the gentle ones behind. "The Vale likes to remember the kindnesses," she explained, her gaze soft as she watched a bee settle on a nearby flower. "It holds on to them. You just have to be quiet enough to hear." Their conversation was unhurried, punctuated by long, comfortable silences filled only by the murmur of the bees and the soft sigh of the breeze in the trees. Her words were simple and wise, and the sound of her calm voice felt like another layer of peace being added to the air, another gentle echo for the Vale to cherish. The steam from his cup rose in a soft white curl, carrying the sweet scent of honey and chamomile into the cool air. He felt a profound sense of gratitude for the tea, for the quiet company, and for this extraordinary place. As the afternoon began to wane, Finian took his leave, his spirit feeling lighter and his understanding of the Vale a little deeper. He walked back to his cottage along the same path, but now he noticed more. He could feel the gentle thrumming life in the soil beneath his feet, a low, steady pulse. He could see the way the light seemed to cling to the fuzzy surfaces of the hush blooms, making them glow with a soft internal luminescence. He was beginning to learn the language of this place, a language not of words, but of gentle resonance, soft light, and profound, abiding peace. Chapter 3. The Library of Laughter. In the days that followed, Finian explored the Vale with a quiet and open heart, letting its gentle rhythms guide him. He discovered that some echoes were not sounds, but feelings. He found a nook between 3 large mossy boulders where the lingering sensation was one of deep contentment, as if someone had sat there for many happy hours, simply watching the clouds drift by. It was a place that invited stillness, and he spent a whole afternoon there, his back against the sun-warmed stone, feeling a peaceful placidity settle over him like a fine, soft dust. The texture of the ancient dry moss was like a thick carpet beneath his hands, and it smelled of deep earth and clean rain. One morning, he was drawn by a particularly warm and inviting resonance, a feeling that seemed to pull him gently eastward. It led him to a part of the Vale he had not yet seen, a wide, sun-dappled grove of immense, ancient trees. Their bark was the familiar silver gray, but their leaves were as broad as dinner plates, forming a high, dense canopy that filtered the sunlight into 1,000 shifting, golden-green patterns on the ground below. The air here felt different, lighter and warmer, and it carried the sweet, loamy scent of decaying leaves and rich, fertile soil. As he stepped into the grove, the resonance became clearer. It was not a song this time, nor a single feeling, but a complex and joyful tapestry of soft, happy laughter. It was the sound of children, he thought, and of adults too, the gentle, bubbling mirth that had seeped into the very wood and soil of this place over countless seasons. It was not loud, but a constant, gentle undercurrent, a faint vibration that you felt more in your chest than you heard with your ears. He smiled, a slow, easy smile that came from a place of deep and simple happiness. He decided to call this place the Library of Laughter. He found a spot where the ground was particularly soft, a carpet of fallen leaves and that same springy ground cover that felt like a natural mattress. He lay down on his back, his hands laced behind his head, and simply existed in the space. The gentle, phantom laughter was a comforting presence, a reminder of simple, shared joys. Above him, the vast green canopy shifted with the languid breeze, causing the pools of light on his face and clothes to dance and sway. It was like lying at the bottom of a calm, sunlit sea, the light and shadow moving with the slow, rhythmic grace of a gentle tide. A feeling of profound ease began to steal over him. He felt a tension in his shoulders and neck, a tightness he carried from his old life that he hadn't even been aware of, simply dissolve. It did not unwind or unknot, it just softened, melting away like a snowflake on a warm palm. He took a deep, slow breath, and the exhalation was a long, contented sigh that mingled with the gentle echoes around him. The air he drew in was full of the scent of life, of green growing things and the rich promise of the earth. He must have drifted into a light, peaceful sleep, for he awoke to find the light had shifted, now casting long, soft fingers across the grove floor. The air had cooled slightly, and the scent of the earth seemed richer, more pronounced. He felt no grogginess, only a clear-headed serenity. He sat up, running a hand through his hair, and felt a single broad leaf that had fallen and come to rest on his chest. He picked it up, admiring its intricate network of veins, its surface smooth and cool to the touch. It was a small, perfect piece of this profoundly peaceful place. He spent the rest of the day in the grove, not doing anything at all, which in itself felt like a wonderful and important activity. He watched a beetle with a shell of iridescent green make its slow and determined way across a fallen log. He observed the way the light caught the tiny, drifting motes of pollen and dust, turning them into a sparkling golden mist. He felt the gentle weight of the air, the soft caress of the breeze on his skin, the solid, reliable presence of the earth beneath them. As twilight began to paint the sky in hues of soft lavender and dusty rose, Finian finally rose to his feet. He felt light, as if some unspoken burden had been lifted from him. The Library of Laughter was a truly magical place, not because of some grand enchantment, but because of the simple, accumulated power of happiness. It was a place that remembered joy and, in its quiet way, shared it with anyone who was willing to come and listen. As he walked back toward his cottage, he felt the gentle echo of the laughter follow him, a warm and pleasant hum that stayed with him long after he had left the grove behind. Chapter 4. The Cadence of the Stars. The days in the Vale had a slow, honey-like quality, each one full and sweet and flowing seamlessly into the next. Finian found that his desire to map things in the traditional sense, with ink and parchment, had faded entirely. His real work was in the mapping of his own senses, in learning to read the subtle language of this quiet land. He learned the different textures of stone, from the river-smoothed pebbles that felt like cool silk, to the rough, grippy bark of the younger trees, to the ancient, weathered granite that held the day's warmth long into the evening. One evening, guided by a story Orla had told him about the sky music, he decided to venture to a high, flat mesa at the northern edge of the vale. The climb was gentle, a winding path that spiraled slowly upwards. As he ascended, the air grew cooler and cleaner, and the scent of the loamy valley floor gave way to the sharp, fresh fragrance of stone and a hardy, unseen herb that smelled a little like mint. The world grew quieter still, the familiar hums and murmurs of the lower vale fading into a vast, open silence. He reached the top just as the last vestiges of daylight bled from the sky, leaving behind an immense canvas of deep, velvety indigo. The mesa was a great, flat expanse of stone, worn smooth by eons of wind and rain, and the stars, the stars were unlike anything he had ever witnessed. Without the haze of a lesser sky, they burned with a brilliant, steady clarity, a countless multitude of diamond-bright points scattered across the profound darkness. The twin moons hung like serene, glowing pendants, bathing the mesa in a soft, silvery blue light. He walked to the center of the great stone slab and lay down on his back, the stone still holding a surprising amount of warmth from the long day's sun. The heat seeped into his back, a comforting, grounding presence against the cool night air. And as he lay there, gazing up into the infinite, he began to hear it. It was not a sound that came through his ears. It was, like the laughter in the grove, a vibration, a resonance he felt deep inside his chest. It was a high, faint, crystalline hum, a chord of immense and ancient purity. It was the music of the stars. The sound was impossibly delicate, yet it filled the entire sky, a silent symphony of light and distance. It harmonized with another, deeper sound, a low, resonant thrum that seemed to rise from the very stone beneath him, the deep, sleeping heartbeat of the world itself. The two sounds, one celestial and high, the other terrestrial and low, wove together to create a music of profound and breathtaking peace. It was a cadence that spoke of immense, unhurried cycles, of creation and stillness, of time beyond all human comprehension. Finian closed his eyes, the better to focus on the sensation. His own thoughts, which had been gently meandering through the events of the day, began to quieten. They did not fight for attention, but simply grew still, one by one, like ripples smoothing out on a vast dark lake. He felt his own sense of self begin to blur at the edges, the boundary between his body and the warm stone, and the humming night air becoming soft and indistinct. He was a small, quiet note in an immeasurable and peaceful song. He felt no fear in this dissolution, only a sense of profound acceptance and belonging. He was part of this vast, gentle machinery of the night. His breath, which had slowed to a deep and even rhythm, felt like a small, personal echo of the great, slow respiration of the universe. The cool night air on his face felt like a gentle caress from the cosmos itself, and the faint, sweet scent of the night-blooming florals that grew in the crevices of the mesa felt like a secret, whispered just for him. Time seemed to lose its meaning. He lay there suspended in a state of pure, wakeful serenity, listening to the cadence of the stars. He was not thinking, not remembering, not planning. He was simply being. It was the deepest state of peace he had ever known. A quiet so absolute that it contained everything. He felt as though the starlight itself were pouring into him, a soft, cleansing light that filled him with a quiet, shimmering calm. It was a moment of perfect, unadulterated wonder, a gift from the silent, singing night. Chapter 5. A Map Made of Stillness. Finian did not know when he finally descended from the mesa. It might have been hours later, or just before the dawn began to sketch its first pale line in the east. The return journey was a slow, meditative walk, his body feeling wonderfully light, and his mind as clear and calm as a still pool of mountain water. The sky music still resonated within him, a faint, pleasant hum that was a constant reminder of the vast peace he had touched. He returned to his little cottage, the soft glow of the embers in the hearth a welcoming sight, and fell into a deep, dreamless slumber. His final morning in the Vale was soft and gray, a gentle mist clinging to the hollows and softening the edges of the world. The air was thick with the rich, clean scent of petrichor, the fragrance of rain on dry earth, though no rain had fallen. It was simply the deep, damp breath of the land itself. Finian made himself a last cup of warm tea, its simple heat a comfort in his hands, and sat at the small wooden desk by the window. On the desk lay his roll of pristine, untouched parchment and his carefully stoppered inkwell. He looked at the blank parchment, at its smooth, expectant surface. For a moment, he considered trying to draw something, the shape of the grove of laughter, the curve of the stream, the high line of the mesa. But he knew it would be a pale and inadequate thing. How could you draw the feeling of a lullaby lingering in the air? How could you use ink to capture the resonance of joy, or the deep, humming cadence of the stars? A map of this place could not be a thing of lines and symbols. With a slow, certain smile, he rolled the parchment back up and tied it with its leather thong. He did not need it. The map was already made, not on paper, but within himself. It was etched into his memory, in the feeling of sun-warmed stone on his back, the scent of hush blooms on the breeze, the sound of Orla's kind voice, the gentle vibration of laughter in a sun-dappled grove. He had come here to chart a place, and in doing so he had charted a new landscape of peace within his own heart. He was not the cartographer, he was the map. He packed his few belongings slowly with a mindful deliberateness. Each item, His worn satchel, his smooth water skin, the nubby wool throw he had come to love, seemed to hold a small piece of the Vale's quiet. He felt a deep and swelling sense of gratitude, not a loud or effusive feeling, but a quiet, steady warmth that filled his entire being. He was grateful for the silence, for the gentle echoes, for the simple, profound beauty he had been allowed to witness. He felt utterly and completely restored, as if he had been dipped in a well of pure serenity. Before he left, he swept the smooth wooden floor of the cottage and ensured the hearth was safely cold. He ran a hand one last time over the cool, solid surface of the river stone wall, a silent gesture of thanks. He stepped outside, pulling the simple wooden door closed behind him. The soft, final click of the latch did not sound like an ending. It sounded instead like one last small, gentle sound being offered to the Vale's vast and patient collection. It was his own quiet contribution to the cartography of echoes. He walked away from the cottage without looking back. The mist was beginning to lift, and the sun was breaking through in soft, watery shafts of light, making the dew on the hush blooms sparkle like 1,000 tiny jewels. The air was cool and fresh against his cheeks. He knew that when he crossed back over the threshold and into the wider, noisier world, he would be different. He would carry the Vale's stillness within him, a quiet harbor he could return to in his mind whenever he needed it. He was leaving, but he was not leaving the peace behind. He was taking it with him.